When somebody asks me, because I got this email actually this week from
Oh,
somebody.
like what am I?
Yeah, well, like what? Yeah,
Yeah,
what
yeah,
division? If I were
yeah.
to compete, what division? And that's
It's,
always a tough question to
uh-huh.
answer. And it's um, a lot of it, I think, comes down to just what the person wants to do. Even if they're underdeveloped to maybe place in bodybuilding, if that's where it's that or nothing, then they'll be they'll be competing as a bodybuilder. Um, but other things, I mean, typically, the divisions as they kind of get higher, let's say bikini, figure, bodybuilding, like the conditioning inches up a little bit with each, or should on paper anyway. So sometimes those lower divisions, for somebody who's kind of on the fence, or they're not really ready to commit, 8 months to doing this, then maybe, one of the, more like men's physique or bikini could be a good entry point for them, even if they don't necessarily want to do that. But, they might want to do bodybuilding, but it's like, okay, let's be realistic. Are you wanting to prep for 6 to 8 months? And they might not want to. In those cases, I think, okay, well, now this is probably your best bet. And if you want to compete still, great. If not, then maybe take some more time.
One thing we forget about bodybuilding is that it's a lot of things to different people, but for some folks, I don't know, it's how it's like their tattoos, it's their body art, it's how they want to present and express that. So sometimes, like for me as a coach, like I'm like, when they ask me that question, like, what am I? I'm like, I don't know. What do you want to be? What do you see yourself as? Because that's really important, right?
Yeah.
Because I think me, 18, 19, you could have told me anything but like bodybuilder, I think. Just because, I was too influenced by like the Arnolds and the Lee Haney's and the Ronnie Colemans. But so at the end, I don't know, it's you. How do you want to present this thing? And like within the confines of like, all these divisions, is there something that kind of like fits that? So, at the end, like, yeah, it's more like left up to the athlete. Like how do you want to do this thing? Because there's really no right or wrong. It's your
Yeah.
work. It's your little project, or it's technically a project that will actually never be perfect, no matter how many first places you might end up getting.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's usually the starting point for me, is seeing like, okay, where do you see yourself? And then from there, it's usually the follow-up question is like, where do you see me being most competitive? And I think a lot of, like, obviously everybody wants to do well when they compete, but if you're just getting into the sport, most people aren't winning their first shows. A lot of people aren't placing in their first shows, at least like in the open divisions, but that's why they have like novice divisions and like teen divisions and things like that. But there does come a point where your physique suits one division more so than another. And you could either keep doing the division you were doing, and because that's what you enjoy, or maybe move to a different division. So usually at that point, I find people have probably already competed at some point, and you kind of know where they stack up when they're in stage shape, and what they actually need to work on. Because a lot of people, when they come to us wanting to prep for the first time, they might not be lean enough to really identify true weak points in their physique, and areas to bring up. And so getting them lean first is kind of oftentimes the first step in really knowing like, okay, this is the lay of the land, and now we can kind of pick and choose a little bit more strategically on the next season after that. But yeah, I think for most people, like the competitive aspect shouldn't be the primary focus when they start.
One of the perks of graduating from like one class to the next is that you the criteria gets a little bit more solidified. Like you will see this with like, for example, bikini, where it's really close. And as much as they tell you, like, don't be over muscular, like, don't be like too lean, it goes to the girl simply because it has like these muscle groups that maybe aren't super high priority, like in bikini, but she had better traps. I don't know. Like,
Mhm.
great. That's definitely not like
Yeah.
a big component to,
Great
to
upper
bikini.
back or something.
Well,
Yeah.
it was just something like that, right? So, and it's a lot of that's what a lot of these classes default to when it gets hard. It's like, okay, who's the closest thing to like bodybuilding?
Mhm.
And it's a little bit less frustrating when, like in bodybuilding, most of the time, like I'd say 90% of the time, like, you know, if someone places ahead of you, you're like, okay, yeah, like per the
Yeah.
criteria, like, yeah, I'd absolutely have them over me. Whereas, yeah, things get a little bit more subjective in the sport. That's its main flaw, anyways.
Yeah.
Things get more objective as you climb up the ranks. And then also in natural bodybuilding, there just isn't as much customization like within like the physiques.
Yeah.
With and especially with like women, like there's just so many more things that you can do. Um, like it's frustrating because sometimes like within the natural circuit, like you will see the classic physique, and okay, they have their winner of the show, and it's like, bro, this dude would have clobbered like the open bodybuilder that won,
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
unanimous, right? Like this makes no sense. Whereas that can never happen in the
Yeah.
IFBB.
Mhm.
Um, and a great example of this was about 15 years now. But like the women who were on this time it was bodybuilding and it was figure. That's what ruled the sport. Patricia Beckman and Terry McBee, they were twin sisters, and one was whipping everyone in bodybuilding, and the other one was whipping everyone in figure. These are identical
Mhm.
twins. They just presented it differently. So
Mhm.
and the thing is, like, you could take a lot of champions still to this day, like I think in like women's like bodybuilding, yeah, we'll say bodybuilding, and you can like just kind of fine tune things, like whether it's with their posing or don't get as hard.
Mhm.
In some cases, yeah, don't train that area, like when we're super close to a show, and they would win. Like
Yeah.
they'd be world champions in those divisions.
Yeah.
Um, so drugs completely changes this, like with the wellness division. Like it's crazy. A lot of these women, because your body's like its own parasite to itself, right? They're legitimately only training upper body like once or twice a month. Like that's not out of the question. And like
Mhm.
all the resources and energy go to the lower half. And I mean, that's why you get that look. And there's just, yeah, we just can't customize bodies the way you can when you're using drugs. And I think
Yeah.
that's something that someone needs to say, um, like within like our world here, because a lot of inspiration, unfortunately, is pulled from that side.